We were doing the lines, the oral tradition coming from the Master Atisha easily transforms these degenerative conditions into causes, generating progress with unfortunate trainees. So whenever you speak, whenever you have a hindrance, whether it's the guys working outside making a lot of noise, or people banging in the kitchen, or getting sick, or any of the problems that come in our life, then these techniques are very, very helpful for keeping our mind peaceful. So yesterday we talked about one of them, saying that we should think, this is a result of my own actions done in the past, and those actions were done under the influence of my self-centered thought, so they were, disturbing actions that harmed others, and now whatever hindrance and obstacle I'm having is the ripening of these actions. So it doesn't mean I deserve to suffer, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person, it doesn't mean I'm getting punished. It simply is a cause and effect reaction. I created a cause, the seed that I planted in my own mind from my negative actions has gotten fertilized by the cooperative conditions of the environment I'm in, and now that's ripening and producing the situation. So rather than get angry, rather than get depressed, then just to accept the situation as a ripening of our own actions and make a determination not to do things that are harmful in the future. In other words, learn from our mistakes. Yeah, and so that's very, very helpful to do. And the learning from our mistakes is helpful. And also just not getting angry is really helpful because, we all have obstacles in our life. And when we react to the obstacles with anger, then the whole thing just becomes worse. Yeah, we all know that from our own experience, don't we? As soon as we say, I don't want this, it's not fair, this shouldn't happen, why is it happening to me? Go away. Then our mind just even gets more distressed, Whereas if we say, yeah, I did some harmful actions in a previous life. I don't know specifically what they are, but it must be something along the line of, whatever hindrance we're experiencing right now. So we did something similar to that, caused others to experience that. And so now it's ripening back on us. And so to think, okay, well, rather than, thinking I'm so good and precious and always do everything wonderfully, let's admit that I've made some mistakes and become a little bit more humble, which is always good for us, and then learn from these mistakes and really improve the way I think about others, how I speak, and how I act. And so that way of working is really very, very excellent. One of the thought training teachings that is being referred to in that verse is one called the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, and in it he talks a lot about if you're experiencing this is the kind of thing that you did in the past. So it really gets us to look at things. And I know this was very meaningful to me personally in many times in my life. The first time was when I got hepatitis A in Nepal, and I was completely laid up and sick, and somebody gave me this book, The Wheel of Sharp Weapons, and I came on the verse about, when your body is fatigued and, and ill and so on and so on. It's from, doing things that have harmed others physically, and it was like, oh, this big wake-up call. And at first it was like, well, I haven't killed anybody, I don't do those kind of things. Well, first of all, I don't know what I did in a previous life. And second of all, when I was a little kid, I used to take all the snails in the garden and stack them up and squish them because I thought I was doing something really good to get rid of these pests, but I was actually harming a lot of beings. Yeah. So, really thinking about that. My 21st birthday, they took me out and we had lobster dinner and dropped a live lobster into the boiling water, and, what kind of pain that I caused that poor lobster, you know, and meanwhile I'm thinking this is great fun, celebrating my birthday. So that's just things from this life, and who knows what I did in previous lives. You know, so then often, you know, because we all have hindrances and obstacles in our lives, and there's always things aren't going the way we want them to go. Yeah. And so instead of, you know, complaining and feeling sorry for ourselves and so on, just say, okay, I created the cause for this, and now I'm going to really work hard to create the causes for the kind of future I want to have, and not create the kind of causes that bring on the kind of distress that I'm experiencing right now. Okay? So I elaborate, this was an elaboration a little bit more on what I said yesterday. Tomorrow I think I'll talk a little bit about bearing the suffering for the sake of others, because that's also a very good thought training remedy. Yeah, where we think that as long as I'm experiencing this, may it suffice for the pain and misery of other living beings who have this problem. Yeah, and that's also an incredible technique, because usually when we have some kind of problem, we just are all spinning around myself. Oh, my problem, and this happened, and that happened, this and that and that and this, and ho, and woe is me, and how am I ever going to deal with this, and oh, it's terrible. And then, you know, never realizing how many people on the planet have very similar problems. You know, my problem isn't anything new. Living beings have had this kind of problem for centuries. Yeah, well, maybe your problem with your computer that broke. You know, people didn't have that computer hell for centuries. But, you know, they were farming in the fields and their plow broke. So, you know, our problems aren't anything new. And so, you know, when we make a big deal out of them, like this is such a catastrophe, then we actually make the experience much worse for ourselves than if we just accept, you know, this has been happening to many sentient beings. This is not unique to me. Yeah, and what about what other people are experiencing? Because some of them have this kind of problem, and they're experiencing something far worse than I am. Yeah, and so considering that I created the cause for it by my own bad actions in the past, I'm getting off kind of easy compared to what some other people are experiencing, you know. And then thinking, okay, as long as I'm having this pain, may I take it, the pain from other living beings, you know, may it suffice, may my suffering suffice for the suffering of other living beings in this condition. That's always also very, very helpful to transform these obstacles into the path. Yeah. Yeah, so it's either that or you buy a lot of boxes of Kleenex. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I've already invested in the Kleenex company a lot. Yeah, so maybe it's time to do something else.